Hi, Akshay. I can see some messages coming in. Nice to have you here. Yes, all of you, please do drop your introductions. Please let us know your name and where you're joining us from. Hi, Balachandra, you're joining us from Mumbai. Great. Hi, I think Muttu. Um, Okay, we are also live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and we have participants viewing us from all over the world. Once again, a very warm welcome to everyone. Hi, Saif, you're joining us from Chhattisgarh. Hi, Ashish from Uttar Pradesh. We have Mohammed from Pakistan. Hi, Manshu from Delhi. Hi, Niveda, you're joining us from Chennai. Nyanindra from Bangalore. Okay, someone from Uttar Pradesh. Sheesh, I think. Great. Okay, it's amazing to have such a lively bunch of audience here. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Ananya, and I would be hosting the session on behalf of Simplilearn. I think this is going to be one of the most eye-opening sessions that we have ever hosted, so please do stay tuned. I'll hand it over to our speaker in just a moment, but a few quick points before that. Number one, please drop any questions you have in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. As you can see, we keep getting a lot of messages in the chat box, so we might end up missing your question. Please ensure that you're using the Q&A box effectively. Secondly, avoid sharing any external links or personal details on the chat box and keep conversations only relevant to the topic. And finally, for those of you who participate in the session till the end and give us your full name in the poll that we'll be launching at the end of the webinar, we will provide an attendance certificate that you can share on your social media, add your resume, and even update on LinkedIn. But please note that only if you participate in the poll, we would be able to generate the certificate. We cannot, unfortunately, take any manual entries. Right. Yes. So at Simplilearn, everything we do revolves around one idea, which is helping professionals build skills that actually move their careers forward. And today's session is also very, very much part of that mission. Over the years, we have worked with millions of learners from around the world across roles, across industries and career stages. We have more than 50 partnerships globally. And speaking of partners, we are proud to partner with many global universities, educational institutions, organizations, and companies that you can see here. This means the learning that you get here is grounded in both academic rigor and industry application. So today's session is structured around four big areas. Firstly, how cyber attacks become business crisis. Secondly, we're going to deep dive into three real-world case studies. And thirdly, we're going to understand the key concepts, cyber concepts that we can learn from these case studies. And fourthly, the role of AI in modern defense. And finally, we'll quickly preview IITM Pravartak's AI-powered cybersecurity program as well, its curriculum features, and how it would impact your learning and career. Okay, I'm going to get this webinar started with this quote because it frames pretty much everything we're going to talk about today. There are only two types of companies: those that have been attacked and those that will be. So it's not a question of whether your organization will face a cyber threat. It's a question of when, and more importantly, how prepared you are. And who better to walk us through that than someone who spent their career building exactly that kind of preparedness. So it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Nithin Krishna. Nithin is the head of Cyber Defense Center at Jeppesen ForeFlight, recognized as Sweden's top cybersecurity professional and ranked among the world's top cybersecurity influencers by cybersecurity champions in the US. He is known for creating resilient, intelligence-driven security programs that have made a true difference in this world. He's also a speaker, a mentor, and active community member. Nithin, it's an absolute pleasure to host you again. I want to ask you, in addition to your introduction, what drives you to keep working in the cyberspace and keep sharing your knowledge with communities and learners like this in this webinar?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ananya. It's been a pleasure last time and be part of this discussion again. So, see, most of my work is not just around preventing attacks. It's like dealing with what happens when things go wrong, right? Because that's what you have to be prepared on. And that's exactly why I like this topic today, because that's something which we have to talk, because many companies will be attacked or will be hacked, but they have to come out of situation. That's what we have to bring them up, how they respond under pressure during real incidents. And that's why I spend a lot of time mentoring people, sharing this kind of experience with them. Like I normally do the similar case study experience with them, make sure they understand what they have to do first when they have a live crisis. So I really love the topic, Ananya. Thank you so much again. But I don't want to take more time on this because people know me. I'm sure almost everyone knows me by now. So I don't want to take much time on introducing myself on that. But let's dig deep into this. And this is a very interesting topic.
Perfect. Right. So, Nathan, adding on to that, I absolutely love this framing, like the best classroom is the crisis that already happened. So before we get
Absolutely.
into the case studies, can you tell us in your experience leading a cyber defense center, have you found that like real incidents teach you things that like, a textbook or like a certification program like cannot? Like what is learning from actual crisis look like in practice?
I can give you a simple example of that. Do you think attackers do based on ISO, or they follow this framework, or they think about, oh, this company is having a 3 weeks patching cycle. I will not attack them during then, right? They don't look at those. So when you put security frameworks, what we say is we are clean, structured, and predictable. But real world attacks doesn't follow any of this. They attack based on a vulnerability which they can find. If they find a vulnerability in you, even if you have ISO, NIST, SOC 2, you are following every framework in the world, if you still have a one vulnerability which is exploitable, they will exploit it. And I always tell this in my, whenever I talk to people also, we have hundreds of tools to protect ourselves, but hackers or the advisories are always a step above us, because the technical skills what they are looking at is only to attack us or break into our systems. They are not looking at anything else. And that's where we have to come up with such case studies. Instead of, if I ask you or if I ask someone in ISO, we have like 93 controls in ISO. Do I remember all of the control by myself? I don't know. I may have to look into that. But when an attacker is looking at one vulnerability, they have everything they need to do on that. And they would have developed an exploit which can actually exploit the vulnerability also. So now I will ask you this back to you, or to the team actually. When you see situation like this, right, especially when you are under attack, or when something like this happens, we know like this is what I have to do. Like all the NIST frameworks tells us that once you have an attack, you should probably do this. You should probably do this. But if we do not do a tabletop exercise, or if you are not prepared for that particular event to happen, then there is nothing. And I think we called it out last time when we had discussion also, right? If you have a backup and if you have not tested the backup, there is absolutely no use of it. So that's the same thing. That's what we can actually learn from case studies like this, real world scenarios, not just memorizing myself on the controls I have on SOC or on NIST or ISO, to answer in a very simple way, Ananya.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I agree with you. We learn best from our, experiences or like, other people's experiences, which is what we're going to
Yeah.
look into. So let's get into the main topic. This is, this statement is really the thesis of today's session, that cyber attacks are not just technical events, they are business crises. Many and most attacks cross the threshold of being an IT problem or the cybersecurity team's problem. It becomes something that the top leadership or even the entire organization has to own, has to face, has to deal the impact of. So we will look at some data points that sort of prove this statement. These numbers are honestly quite staggering, right?
Yeah.
$10.5 trillion is projected as the cost of cybercrime annually. It could take up to nearly 9 months on average to identify and contain a breach. $4.88 million again is the average cost per cyber breach incident, and 74% of breaches involve human element, which means more than 25% of the attacks are AI led. Again, quite staggering statistics. But with that context, let's get into our first case study, which is Microsoft SharePoint and the ToolShell exploit. This is quite a recent incident, and one that hit organizations at a very, very serious scale. So, Nithin, over to you. Please set the scene for us. What was the environment like before this happened, and why were so many organizations caught off guard?
Yeah, and it's good that we are moving from theory into something very real now, right? So this vulnerability was something to do with Microsoft, and I think it was with the Microsoft SharePoint tool shell. And to be very honest with everyone, this is one of the best example of how modern attacks are really happening now. What really happened was, at first glance, when we looked at this vulnerability, researchers find an issue. As normal, it gets disclosed, a patch was released, and we thought, okay, the life cycle was ending there. But what really made this particular incident different from that was the moment when a working proof of concept, like normally what happens is when a researcher finds it or a attacker create a public proof of concept, they we will have our own ways to actually mitigate the problem. And we thought our patch could actually do that. But when the proof of concept here became public, the complete analogy what we had in our mind was changed overnight. It was just completely different. We thought what we controlled through all the patches what we could do was really good, but the actual problem was not there. It was in the defensive process what we had, it was in the patching process what we had, it was the validation of the patching what we had, the change management process. It was affecting everywhere. And nobody really had this much of time to actually do this. And one thing which we want to remember here, attackers doesn't care about our patching. They don't care about our change management. They just attack us from the day one the POC becomes available. And that's what really happened here. So the moment the POC became public, they had a very good automation in place, and they just automated it, they scaled it, and started exploiting from the next second, I would say. And here, the gap, what we are not talking about is not just technical. We didn't have people to do this patching right now. It was also an operational damage. And the difference is how fast we can respond to. Because attackers were attacking us every second, I would say. Because now we have all these AI agents and AI bots. So the attack was coming every now and then, and we didn't have any ways to actually prepare for that. And one thing which reminds me also is that in today's very sophisticated environment, the gap is too wide. And when we think, oh, we will wait for an attack to happen, we would have already been attacked and we would have already influenced it a lot. And that again comes back to the same topic where you said cyber incidents are not an IT specific incidents now. It is more of a business case, right? That's where I like the slide when you presented it. So again, the impact was huge in terms of that. But I would say the difference what it made with the real impact of that was, Ananya, uh, if you could actually move, yeah, okay. So if you could actually see, there are thou- thousands of exploitation or hundreds of organizations that have been targeted at a single entity. Previously, the attackers used to time, they will take some couple of days to actually move from public sector to private sector or from to the federal organization. But here, they just had a scale of like everything was happening at the same time. And the SharePoint versions, which was exposed, was like we didn't have time to actually patch it because you have your documents available there. You have people who are like, oh no, that's not a business critical thing. But is it okay if it is get exploited? Because that could be also a path for some other entry points into the system. So do you want to expose that to public? So people were really in a very difficult situations, like on how to actually mitigate it. And also, I would say I wouldn't go with the percentage of here. But at least as per Akamai and as per some other CrowdStrike information, what we could actually gain on this was it was at least 20% of environments were still exposed after patches were available. At least. I'm not saying it is 20%. Because was it called as a 0 day? If you ask me, I wouldn't really call it as a 0 day because it was not a new release or something. But still, when a patch was released, it came into like a 0 day sort of thing. And you have to patch it immediately. And here, we always talk about this. Or if you have MFA, if you have single sign on, if you have multi factor authentication, that's all good. You are all, you can act like a god. But that was not enough here. Because when you have everything at one segment, uh, without having any network segmentations, all your production systems, all your crown jewels are your most critical systems, are at a single network layer. Then if I can actually infiltrate into one of that means every other system can be compromised. It is only a matter of time. Maybe the attacker would take additional couple of minutes, because these days the signature also changes a lot. It's not the same signature what the attacker would already use before. That's the biggest challenge what we see these days. Because previously we know, okay, this is an attack actor, and this actor will only use such signatures. But now, absolutely not. He keeps changing. So those are the things which we have to see. And I would also say, the takeaway from here was very simple. It's a very simple takeaway to everyone. Patching is absolutely necessary, but that's not only sufficient. You need to look at a lot of other things other than patching. It could just protect you at that point, but that's not everything. So you have to plan yourself, you have to look into things, you have to come up with better ways on how to actually prepare and close the complete loop of the attack. So that's something which I would really take away from this. And I would also say one thing, if you could, the key concepts from this, what made me think was, uh, we always talk about zero trust. Does anyone know about what is zero trust? If someone could actually pass in the message, we can actually look into that. And also, let me ask this to Ananya. So what do you think, Ananya, is zero trust? Why do you think zero trust is very important here?
I'm,
Do you?
I
Yeah,
have no
I can also
idea
give an
about
answer
the
for this.
text. Can you
Yeah. So if
take a guess,
yeah.
Nithin? Maybe like, it's like a framework, or like, in an environment where, you sort of do not, um, you have your controls very high, and you do
Mhm.
not have, like, you don't exhibit any trust on any external sources or vendors or anything like that. Maybe that's just like a very random, non-technical guess.
Yeah, very good. You made a very good example of zero trust when you started the session. What you did was, you said when people join, you ask them to actually push their names, and also from where they are coming from and from what they do. That is absolutely zero trust. So you don't trust anyone. It could be bots joining in. We don't know, right? But can a bot enter all this information? Maybe yes, with this AI, but not to the level of information what we have already seen people typing in. So with zero trust, you don't trust anything. So that's where
Yes.
the zero trust becomes very important. It's not a buzzword. It's actually a practical control wherein you are limiting your blast radius. You are saying, okay, I can, I only trust you if you confirm me a couple of things about yourself. These are things which I want to know from you. And once that trust is made, yes, then I trust you. So that's where the zero trust is very important, for everyone to understand in cybersecurity. And here also, we spoke about, if it is at a single layer of security, it's not contained at all. So whenever you do any network segmentation, you can try it in your personal home lab itself. You can see when you set up your home network at one domain, and if you have every workstations designed into that, you can probably see it becomes so easy to actually ping those IPs at least. I can know how many IPs are there in that particular range very easily. But if it is a different range, then it becomes so different. So the question becomes, are we designing ourselves for only preventing attacks, or are we designing our systems also for a containment perspective? So that's the question we should ask ourselves, to the organizations also, when you are attending different seminars or different webinars, or when you're talking to your leaders, you should ask them. You should really ask these questions to them. Are we designing the system for prevention? Then I don't think we are doing a proper security here. We should also work towards containing what happens after an incident happens, right? So that's something which is a real thing which I like about this tool shell, and it's a wonderful case study to work with.
Hmm. Right, and that containment that you spoke about is how you prevent it from becoming a huge business crisis. So I think that
Yes.
perfectly rounds up and connects with the topic at hand here. Great. Okay, so we will move on to our second case study. I think this is fascinating, Nathan, for a completely different reason, because this wasn't exactly a cyber attack as such.
Yes.
Nobody technically had hacked CrowdStrike. So yet it caused the largest IT outage, I think, one of the largest IT outages in history. So I think this particular case study challenges how we define cyber attack or cyber risk, right? So can you set up the story for us?
Yeah, so this one actually, like you said, it's a complete different thing. People talk about everything when a system is halted or system happens to have a crash. We all think it is it's a cyber incident, but this one was a complete different one where there was no attack groups or an attack actor be part of it, right? So, and that is the same reason why it stands out, because there is no attacker involved in this. But still, if you look at, this caused the largest global IT outage I can remember of. And no, I think there was another one, but this was one of that at least, because we had recently Cloudflare, which also had the same problem. So this also relates to the same thing. And what really happened here was, when you trust something, like in reality, what happens is, we trust something. Like I said, the zero trust what we had, we think the trust would only come from a trusted ecosystem. But in many cases, that's where the real impact comes from, and that's huge than we would actually think of. And this is not about hacking what we are talking about here. It's more of a, a system failure, or actually a vendor third party risk management. If the vendor is not properly having controls in their place, that could also be a problem for us, because we, at this micro service world what we are living right now, we depend a lot on some other organizations. It's not just about us. We are depending a lot on various other organizations to make sure our business runs smoothly. And that's where it becomes an ecosystem, right? So if you do the payment itself, you buy something from your food app, and the map what it actually shows there is from Google. The payment gateway what you might use maybe from some other Stripe or some other payment gateways, and then it talks to your bank through a different API, and then it talks to maybe your Apple Pay or Google Pay through a different API. So it's all connected. It's a different ecosystem what we have. And that's where the impact. So if you think, if you're opening your app, your food delivery app today, and you cannot see the map there, do you think it's a problem with the food delivery, or is it a problem with Google? Whom do you blame first? You blame the food delivery app first. You don't blame Google for that. So you don't know whether Google is providing it, because we know, because we are talking technical here. But does a normal user know whether the map which is actually shown there is been delivered by Google? No. So that's the same thing. The CrowdStrike incident also makes it a little different from the normal cyber incidents, is that the risk what we always look at, we would have planned well for the services what we have. But what people actually forgot was, What would happen if CrowdStrike goes off? Oh, should we plan for that risk? We never planned for it. This was something which we considered as a shared risk between the vendor and the organization. And that's where the biggest problem was. If it goes wrong, they would have clearly called out in their SLA that they will take maybe 1 or 2 hours to come back the service. But imagine it was a critical service and you cannot risk even 1 hour of SLA. But you never thought CrowdStrike will go off. So you signed the contract with them and you now, in contractual terms, you are within that SLA itself. But your services are down because of that. So now, if you ask me who is wrong here, I will say the organization who is actually doing the cybersecurity for themselves. That's what it really unfolded for them. This really started as a routine update. There was no alerts. I would say when this thing happened, really, I did not actually see any alerts. There was no warnings, nothing unusual. But within like couple of minutes or couple of hours, I would say there was like save one incidents coming from all over the world. People were like, this is down, this is down, this is down. And the news became so quick. This was like, if it became global, I would say within like 30 minutes to 1 hour time, it became a global incident. That was the penetration what it had. And it didn't just focus on business critical, it happened to be hospitals. So hospitals are considered the business critical one. Imagine the the oxygen cylinders was not operating because the CrowdStrike was not working. We never thought this could really happen, or a surgery was going on and there was a computer in need there and the computer didn't start to do what it was supposed to do. And airlines, every airlines had problems with because of this, not just the airlines as the planes, I would say, but the airline operations, because everyone needs computer. And I still remember people posting the images of blue screens what we had on that day. you know there was no information about which flight was going, which flight was delayed, no information at all. And it was like completely unusable, right? It was all blue screens everywhere. Every mission was becoming completely unusable. And this was, I'm not just talking about it happened only in Asia, it happened across. So at least I think it was in a scale of millions, if you would talk about. I really resonated with something around 8.5 million Windows devices, and this was actually published in the Microsoft blog also. They really published the numbers. It was the impact of it, and also the biggest standout for this again is this was not an attack. So do you really think always attack group or a hacker is required to create a global panic? No, this was just an update, or it was just a system change which they had to do, which really didn't happen in the way they wanted. So the more we go digital, you have to have proper risk mitigation plan, proper risk management. And that is where, again, like to the same point which Ananya made at the beginning, cybersecurity is not just an IT problem, it is a business crisis. And this really resonated on this. This is not a cyber incident. People ask me, Nithin, do you still say this is a cyber incident? I would say it's not a cyber incident in a way, but still, when you say cyber, that is something which we always say it's related to computers, it's related to technology. Then yes, this was something into that same thing. So, and also, the key things what you can actually learn are the one which we already spoke about, which is third-party risk management. So, which you have to have proper understanding of how your third parties are connected, how your third parties are managing their risk. If I don't know what the third parties have, and very good point from Raghav, availability was lost from the CIA triad. Absolutely. CIA triad plays a vital role in this. Everything in CIA triad, availability, everything, so availability is very vital in that. So if I want to have a system at this particular time, this particular day, if I don't have that, then it is completely fallback. So TPRM is something which, if you are from organizations and if your organizations are not doing TPRM, I would definitely ask you to go back and tell them, we should do this TPRMs, and also DPIA, which is data protection, data privacy impact assessment. That is also something which you have to do in every organization where you work for. So that is when you really understand what could actually do better and what is that we should really think of doing. And one other thing is what I would also relate to this, Ananya, is that this is a classic example of how we can actually trust, combined with, I would say, high privilege, because this one was like people wanted to have this particular system at this particular time, and there was no containment in anything on that. And we were heavily considering on one vendor. We didn't have an alternative vendor to go to. That's a clear example of DR, disaster recovery. We thought, oh, CrowdStrike, right? They are a $1 million company. We can vouch on them. What could do if CrowdStrike goes wrong, or what could happen? We didn't even have that in a tabletop exercises. We never thought about it. So we thought, okay, that's easily good. We didn't have any rollback mechanism. If CrowdStrike goes down, can we roll back to some other vendor? No, we didn't have that. So now at least, when we consider this, the CrowdStrike example itself, we look at different ways to be live always. So how does the recovery becomes more of a proactive way, not become reactive to it and no more become manual to a situation? How are we automating it? Because if you just be reactive in such scenarios, then it's biggest challenge for us. So I would say again on this, it is more about preparing yourself. I know you would have documented, maybe, every organization would have a full fallback mechanism documented. Oh, this is what my DR plan will look like. But if you do not actually test your DR, then that's just a document like lying in some ground, a document of no use. So go back to your organization and also see what are the things which you can bring to the table. Like, if you have a DR, tell them, why don't we test it? We should test this DR, just not document it. Let's prepare for this. And I have a question also to the team here. If someone wants to answer this, I'm sure when you go through the scenarios right now, you would think, do I have real time to actually test this DRs? Because we have a lot of things which is on us. Cybersecurity is like everyday job. We have like a lot of playbooks to work on, lot of operations to go through. Do you really think, Nithin, I have time to do this test DR? I get this question a lot. And my answer to them is, during a real incident, you will not have any clue to whom to go to or what you have to do if you do not test it. So if you have tested it at least once, then oh, this is a step one, this is step two. I can fall back, because imagine you are having 5 steps in your DR, and the step one didn't work at all. It's complete fallback. Step two is not working for you, and it's a real incident you're talking about. And step three, no, absolutely not. I'm sure as a human being, we would be panicked, absolutely panicked, because your first 3 steps of your incident response plan and didn't work at all. Are you prepared for this? We are not. To be honest, no human beings would be prepared for that, and we will panic. And that panic would cause more delays. But what happens if you do this in a real tabletop exercise is, okay, if the first step doesn't work, second also doesn't work, third also doesn't work, fourth one, yes, I know it is going to work because I have already tested it, and you are prepared for that, because you have to go in the process, because you cannot directly escalate to level 4. So you have to follow the process. You are following the process, and you know you are in a very calm situation to actually take it through. So it's not about documenting it, it is about how you prepare yourself and how you take it to the process. That's the key learnings and key concepts of CrowdStrike incident which I want to bring to the table.
Perfect,
But if you
Nitin.
have any
Thank you.
specific to ask Ananya, please, we can discuss on that as well.
Yes, I mean, it was hearing you. It was sounding almost like a fire drill for me. Like, how effective a drill would be to ensure that you are prepared and you're calm. During when the attack happens. Maybe, like, if you can shed some light on what questions, like, should security professionals be asking their vendors, like, before getting them on board, to ensure that, like, they are compliant. What are, like, some checklists? What should we check?
So we normally have every organization these days have at least 60 to 80 questions what we normally ask third parties. It's not like a simple questionnaire what we have. So in our organization also we have something which would probably talk about their governance practices, their compliance, their data protection, their identity management, their infrastructure, their application security, how do they manage vulnerability management, what do they do if situation something like this comes up, what is their incident response plan, what is the supply chain management. So all this is something which we should know from a third party. And I cannot just give one question here, but you have to know your risk appetite. You should know your applications, you should know your infrastructure, and then you can play it well. And I'm so happy to see one of my favorite person in this, Nithin Soni is there. So I know him in and out. He's from H&M. So he had a very good thing there. He said a very good point. Backup should be mutable. Yes. So imagine, there's a very good example of that, Ananya. Uh, I have a backup. Say I have a backup in place, and attacker can actually come and delete the backup. What do you think? Is it worth to have a backup? No, right? So that's where immutable comes in place. Nobody can delete a backup. So if you do not have an immutable backup in place, then you are not prepared for an attack. Because the first thing what an attacker would look for are the backup files, because you don't have a restore point to go back. Because we would have kept the backup in a situation where I know I can reach back to the backup. Oh, I have a backup in place, I can go back to the backup, right? That's why you take a backup. But if it is not immutable, attacker can actually come in, it's wiped off. There is nothing to restore. So you have a big problem there. And that's a very good point by Nathan. So very good to think of that way. You should really think what you would do as an attacker. What are the things which you consider to be safe? Think of your house. Where do you keep your most secure items? Where do you keep you have a locker in place, right? You don't keep your locker open. You always keep your locker closed. Or if you keep your valuables in bank, why do you do that? Because you want to secure the most valuable things. And that's the same thing what we say in IT also. We have crown jewels. And if your crown jewels are in the same network segment, is it enough? Absolutely not. We have a bigger problem there. So that's what you have to, you know, I always think in this way, Ananya, you have to first secure yourself as a human being, bring the hygiene in yourself, then you can protect any systems. It's about bringing that into the table, set an example to others, how we can actually do this and what we can actually do with that. Then it's the perfect world for you. But again, attackers will evolve. That's when you have to start learning. And that's what I like about Simplilearn again. You have something like this coming up with the case studies, which I've never did so far with any other platforms. So such things are really good, because I talk a lot about other normal best practice and everything, but a case study like this is really making difference in what people should understand. And people like Nithin can actually come in and say, because he's also a veteran in IT world, in cybersecurity. So he can also talk about things, and that's something which case studies and brainstorming make a difference in this world. And it's all about collaboration. If it is like, we have a lot of information sharing communities available, where we talk about threat intel, where we talk about vulnerability management, and all these forums are really helpful. Because sometimes, like CrowdStrike, is it something which I can only manage? Absolutely not. It's not something which I can manage myself, because it was a global event. So it has to be collaboration between each other. And how do we properly plan it out? So those are things which is the key concept to learn from this. And absolutely, really good to go through this CrowdStrike incident.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks, Nitin. So we will move on. And I think, like, now we come to the case study that is going to stay with people the longest, because it represents something like, very new, very fresh. So, a Chinese state-sponsored group used an AI system as the primary attack engine. So, Nitin, I think, like, this was the first documented AI orchestrated cyber attack at scale, at this scale. So, help us understand why this is such, like, a landmark moment in the industry.
Yeah, this was indeed a landmark moment. We never thought this was this was so quick. We were expecting this could really happen, but we never thought this was going to happen so fast. So how this really came out was, we every one of us was vouching for AI. We wanted AI to be like, everywhere. Any tool you buy, any EDR, any MDR, any NDR, or any SIM applications, you wanted AI to be there. But we were not sure of how attackers are going to use it. We didn't plan for that. So in this case, what happened was, attackers didn't try to directly misuse the AI system. They really used it in a way how a developer will actually use it. They broke down their key objectives into very small, I would say very small, harmless task. And each request looked absolutely legitimate. And there was no suspicions, when a DDoS attack, or when a phishing attack, or any such attacks, or a ransomware attack happens into our systems, it always raises some suspicions with either one of the platform what you have. But here, there was nothing, absolutely nothing. It was all clear. There was no information. There was, there was, I would say there was, to be honest, there was nothing. It was completely easygoing. We didn't even think about anything. But what really caught us off guard was, you had to actually connect everything together, all these single pointers together, to understand what really happened. And that was late. That was really late when we actually looked at the step 7, and we thought, oh my God, we are really gone here, because the attacker is already inside. They are doing a lot of things. How come this was not captured by any of our events? So they broke every security architecture what we have actually built. They analyzed the code, and it always improved themselves. And that's where it didn't trigger any red flag to any of the systems what we had. And behind the scenes, all the steps were actually chained in a perfect way, which we were not at all prepared on. And that's what I said. When you connected it together, it is it's an attack. But if you see individual steps, no, this was all, oh wow, no, absolutely not. This is a real situation what is happening here. You connect the complete attack vector and the threat actor workflow. Oh my God, this is a big thing. The full attack flow, if you see, it's an attack what we had to actually go through. So this became one of the key thing in our in the way we think about how AI can also evolve. And when you look at the small isolated task, you don't get the full picture. But attackers can actually get it because they know all the small things what they're actually doing is really gonna impact the organization which they are targeting. But for us, it really didn't make any sense at all. So that's what we need to understand here. The risk, what we are talking about using AI or having a misconfiguration in your system, is not just about an obvious misuse. It's also about how normal looking actions can be combined into something highly malicious. If you see one activity like someone is trying to infiltrate your servers, you saw an IP address which is coming and hitting your servers. That's okay. It's one IP. But is that IP address connected to a threat actor? Is that IP address being attacked in your region before? Is they targeting your kind of infrastructure anywhere else? You need to connect the dots because attackers are doing it. If you do not do it, then you are behind. And it is very difficult. It's not an easy task. I know it's not very easy to detect it with our traditional controls, what we have in place. We need to evolve how attackers are moving forward. We also need to evolve in a way that, what would an attacker do? Moving away from your legacy thoughts like, okay, I will wait for an attack to happen, or I will wait for someone to infiltrate my system. I'm prepared for it. Does that even make sense? Absolutely not. So the problem with here is once they are able to actually get past your initial controls, it's just a mass exploitation what is going to happen there. And the other thing which also noted through this was the signature of the malwares was changing on the go. It was not like you had a signature before and that signature was blocked by EDR. Normally, what happens in the regular situations in a normal way of blocking IPs, that IP gets blocked, or that signature or the hashes gets blocked. But imagine I attacked you, the organization, the hash got blocked, and that's the only signature what I have from this particular attacker. The next hash, I'm going to change my hash the next time when I attack. And that hash is nowhere there. It's not even related to this one. So I am already in. There was no blocking for me there. And we are not talking about this like one instance or one at a time. The scale what we are talking is like very difficult for human to actually match. It's like millions of requests coming at seconds or milliseconds. And no systems were actually ready to do it. What would actually take at least a days or week to actually have a complete compromise situation. And what we are talking about here is maybe max to max an hour. A week to an hour is what we changed with this particular AI incident. And was there a human involved in this? We don't know. We don't think so. It was purely bot driven. Maybe they would have created the bot to do this kind of attack, but during the attack phase, the complete exploitation phase, there was no human involved. So the scale of operation was so huge. And that's where the biggest thing, how the attackers are also executed in this, right? That's where the fundamental shift, what I can also think is how the attack was executed in the way. That was just a start. Now imagine those kind of situation happens again. And that's where, we need to probably learn from this. What are the things which we can actually improve on? What are the things which we should learn from this incidents, right? So that's something which we will talk now. I would say the main issue, Ananya, was the visibility. Like I said, we always looked at, did they become a circle? Oh. No, it was just an attack. We will ignore it. But from a security standpoint, from a SOC standpoint, you have to look at individual actions. Don't just look at whether that particular IP address became an incident for you. Even if you think that's a small one IP address hitting you, or maybe 10 IP address hitting you, or 20 IP address hitting you, you should probably know what is the sequence of the behavior. What would that potentially be? Try to understand from that, and always look at things where what could go wrong, and what kind of systems are they targeting for. Is it something a crown jewel for you? Is it something which is really important? Is it a Will that become a business crisis for you if that particular service goes down? So all that is something which you should really consider. And the I would say the biggest gap what I actually found in this was we don't actually monitor access. And like you said, I think in one of the slide which we also spoke about, the the incidents which we happen to triage, it takes a lot of time actually. When you have a incident created, you don't triage the incident then and there, and you don't know exactly what was the root cause of it. We may secure an access, like, okay, I will not allow Ananya to access this particular page. But what I didn't do was I didn't monitor how that access was being used by someone over time. I don't have any visibility on that. Then that means I have a very vague answer on, do I have a strong access control in place? If I don't know what that particular access was doing, then I have a big problem in my access management. And that's again the same point which we'll talk, the threat modeling. That's the biggest topic in AI or any other incident management things. Everyone will agree, threat modeling is something which we need to evolve based on what AI is bringing onto the table these days. We cannot, I can say, we cannot think, or we cannot assume attackers are limited by time or effort. Previously we used to say this. It used to be my go to phrase, Ananya. We say attackers don't like to spend more time with one resource. If it is an easy target, they will target you. If they But with bot, there is no time limit for them. If they think that you are a critical resource, even if you have 1,000 controls to protect you, still they will try to attack you. Reason being, there is no time limit and there is no effort behind it. They just run a bot, it keeps attacking you until the bot finds a vulnerability in you which can be exploited. There is no effort. It's just a cloud instance which I need. And there are platforms like DigitalOceans or AWS itself or IBM which can actually give you 1 month free servers to run. I can just run it on them, keep it running for 1 month, find all the vulnerabilities across the globe, and give me a result and attack them, or even submit researches, because that's also a good thing. I'm not always targeting the advisories here, but there are good vulnerability disclosure programs available where people are also making use of this AI platforms. Because using AI, you can really, if in my organization also we have a very good vulnerability disclosure programs. So if you have vulnerability which you want to disclose it to us, you can always do it through our vulnerability disclosure management programs. And every organization has that, which means you can use AI for good and bad. It's your conscious mind which have to choose what is that which you have to do about it. And with the defense center which we currently run, you have to have the detection strategies thinking from a normal behavioral based, pattern based, or anomaly based to something previously which we used to have only signature based. Like if these hashes are coming in, then we block it. But we have to change it now. If someone is accessing this particular server at this particular time or at this particular pattern, then that's not something really good to have. We need to contain the situation. So you need to put it more of a behavioral pattern based anomaly detection rather than a predefined rule or a predefined signatures what we have. And that's where this is changing with the attack modeling aspect or threat modeling aspects. And SOC is evolving here. Whenever I'm talking to SOC team these days, they are saying, Nithin, we don't know how to prepare for a cyber incident with AI. I'm like, nobody's actually prepared for it. But make sure that you change from your signature based or predefined rule based threat detection to more of a behavioral pattern based anomalies. So it means for the SOC team, you are actually adapting to a world in a way that activity happens faster and it may not be malicious when you see the first instance. So the legacy old sock is like you have to bring the complete circle. Only if you think that they are actually trying to attack you, you stop the attack. But now, if you see a pattern or if you see a behavior of it, you start block it because you don't know because there is no such behavior or pattern which you can actually define for AI. Humans, yes, we know. I I'm not gonna if I'm actually typing my keyboard, I know the fast how fast I can actually type a message. But imagine you are getting a message from me before even you send a message, you are receiving a message back from me with full instruction like 10 pages or 10 lines of messages. Do you really think I can type that fast? Absolutely not. That means something is wrong somewhere. So that's the kind of anomaly detection, behavioral pattern detection what you need to have in your SOC. And this is where we are going to upskill and learn more about AI. Use AI. Every organization is pushing towards AI. So use it in a way that you can use it against attackers also. That's what we are trying to do in defenses as well. So if someone is trying to attack you using AI bot, block it with an AI bot. You have an AI bot which can actually prevent it because AI can actually understand it in a much better way than a human can actually do it. So human can be a level 2, level 1 defender would be attacker, the AI itself. So that is something which is constantly moving towards the threat modeling is moving towards that. And it's a long going topic, like you said, it's a more interesting topic also to talk to these days. And this is just a start, Ananya. This attack is just a start in the AI world. It's happening every day, every now and then. So I don't know
Yes.
where we are headed to, but this is a fun world.
Yes, and to add on to your point, I think the real irony here is that the same technology that GTG, the AI system, used to
Yeah,
weaponize, is also what Anthropic used to detect the attack.
absolutely.
So yeah, uh, so if AI is on the right side of this equation, then what is the scenario like? Like, would it actually be able to catch what human analysts might miss? So how can AI be used more strongly in defense?
Yes. See, you already answered this. Anthropic, if you recall, I think it was a month ago. Anthropic actually put down a bot which could actually do vulnerability scanning and fixing, and that disrupted the cybersecurity market. All the companies who was depending on vulnerability management, like all the companies, I would say there was a lot of companies which even I had investment on. They all collapsed overnight, and the percentage of collapse was almost 20 to 30 percentage. So, and the DTG group, what we're talking about here, like you said itself, they use the same concept. And that's the same thing which we are talking about here, right? It's not always AI, like, I don't know how much it changed over the last couple of weeks or couple of months. It changes enormously. It changes in a very drastic scale because you are feeding them with a lot of information. It's not like, if you look at cloud itself, there is an option where you can add skills in cloud. It can work from the skills what Anthropic is giving you, but if you want to make cloud to learn a new programming language, say example Rust or Go, which Anthropic is not having the skill, you can upload a skill to them. Like you learn the skill. Next time when you develop a piece of code for me, you develop in Rust framework or in Go framework, and the cloud will actually do it for you. You think how much of time that will take for a human to actually do that, to learn a new programming language? It will take at least a month in normal time. Or if you are young, or if you are doing colleges, yes, maybe overnight. But in our age, if you want to develop something, some playbook or something, we take at least some time. So this is what the real problem here, right? Because it can scale at a very high level, and it becomes so different to see how the platforms actually detect it, and also how we can actually say this is an anomaly which we're actually saying. By the time you think it's an anomaly, it should have already been attacked. So that's the ratio what we're actually talking about, and that's where this is becoming more of a AI. The last point, if you see, you can see that is an AI augmented SOC, and that's what we are looking or going towards. I don't think every organization has reached the place where we can say we have an AI agent who's actually triaging every incident or every cases what we have at SOC right now, but that's something which we are looking for. Like I said, an attacker would be triaged by a defender. Both are AI talking to each other. It's like the olden iRobot movies where a robot is talking to a robot, and they really understand each other than a human talking to them. They don't have any
Right.
consciousness. They just know we have given a task to attacker has given a task to attack, and we have given a task to defend. That's the only thing what they do. There's nothing else. But we, when it's a human being looking into it, we look at all angles, multiple places. Does it really connect all the dots? No, they are just focused on one activity. And that's where all this identity detection also comes in. That's what I told about the behavioral patterns, what we look at, how this could actually be something which you have to see. So it's all in a nutshell, like. And here the other thing also which I like to call out, Ananya, is that the importance of threat intelligence in an organization. How would threat intelligence could relate to it is something which we also need to understand on, because we should really know who are the state actors, who are the national wide actors, who are espionages, who are this, who are that. All that information a threat intelligence would have, and they bring a lot of things to the table. So if you have at least know this attack group is targeting this type of organizations in this particular group or this particular region, then you are more prepared for it. If you do not have that, then you are like completely blind when it happens. So that's where it becomes more important for you. And there are a lot of
Right.
other AI threat modeling also available in the market these days. You can actually just give a link, like a imagine you know about DTG group now. Just give them the MITRE framework link and ask them to actually ask the AI threat model to prepare a complete threat model for you. It will prepare it for you, the complete end-to-end model for you. So just do a tabletop with that, and you're good. You are prepared for an AI attack. So, but are you future ready still? Maybe not, because it keeps evolving. And that's where this threat intelligence will come in. That is where this AI augmented SOC will come in. Your ITDR will come in. Your SOAR will come in. So everyone in the organization would actually play a vital role. When I say organization, I'm talking about cybersecurity organization. So everyone in the team will actually play a vital role in AI based attacks or AI based defending going forward.
Yes. Nathan, very interesting that you mentioned the threat intelligence because I'm skipping a few slides here because one of our upcoming webinars is about threat intelligence. Allow me just a minute to talk about it. It's an exciting masterclass on cyber threat intelligence and how you can build a career in the specialty, which is it's going to be led by Prasanna Kumar GK, a cyber security leader, currently a chief Chief in Security Officer, and also a LinkedIn top voice in information security. It's happening on the 8th of April, which is a Wednesday, on 8 p.m. IST. So you will receive our email updates about it. But if you would like to quickly register right away, you can scan on the QR code right here or click on the link that I've just shared on the chat. Sorry to hijack from you, Nithin, just because you mentioned it, I thought it was relevant to talk about our upcoming session. Just sort of indicating that we are in alignment with what's in trend, what's widely spoken about concepts. That's what we want to bring into our webinar. So just wanted to come with that perspective. And yes, I know we are about an hour into the webinar, so I will try to keep this last portion very, very quick. We want to quickly introduce the AI-powered cybersecurity mastery from IITM Pravartak and Simplilearn in collaboration with Microsoft. This program is designed to equip you with cutting-edge skills in threat detection, automation, modern cyber defense, and a lot more. There's an emphasis on hands-on learning through over 70 exercises and 15 case studies, much like what we previewed in this webinar. So you're not learning just theory, but also applying knowledge to practical security challenges. The capstone projects here are particularly interesting. They simulate real cyber attacks and incident response scenarios. So this gives you very valuable experience in both offensive and defensive security operations. And definitely one of the standout aspects is the industry recognized program completion certificate from IITM Pravartak, which is a technology innovation hub at IIT Madras. You will also be receiving a course completion certificate from Microsoft. Right. So here is quickly the program curriculum for interested learners. This learning module provides a comprehensive exploration of AI, threat analysis, ethical hacking, vulnerability management, red team tactics, blue team strategies, and a lot more. So here are quickly the skills and the tools that you will be learning, that you will be exposed to. But adding on to this, I also want to say that an interesting part of the program, something that usually attracts and is very valuable to a lot of learners, is a 2-day campus immersion program at IIT Madras Research Park. And yes, so this is, not just about a program completion certificate. You also get career services through Simplilearn's Job Assist feature, which includes AI-powered profile optimization for your LinkedIn and resume, interview prep, mock assessments, handpicked job opportunities curated by Simplilearn, along with group mentoring and networking with peers and industry mentors. So this is sort of like a full ecosystem you need in order to land your next role. For those of you who are interested, here are the fee details. For Indian learners, the fee is 1,55,405 at a 15% discount currently, with no cost EMI options also available from 6,958 per month. Right. So for those of you who are interested to know more about the program, you can explore in the link here. You can also download the curriculum from the program page that I've just shared, or you can scan the QR as well and get to know more about the program. So with that, I will quickly launch a poll to take interest in enrolling the program. So all you have to do is click on a yes or a no. Even if you have any queries, you need more details, you are a little unsure, you would like to talk more with an expert, just please click on yes. Our advisor will be getting in touch with you within 24 hours and guide you forward. Right. So while we wait for everyone to show their interest, then let's look at a couple of questions that have come our way. Just read that out. Okay. So we have Raghav asking about AI-powered red teaming. Is that kind of like as it become a basic necessity these days with all the attacks that are happening?
I wouldn't say it's a necessity, but it's more of a it's important you to have it. It's not, I wouldn't say everyone going towards that, But if you look at the way how it was in past, we need to have a pen testing done, we need to have a security research done, then we do a patching, then we do the vulnerability management, and then we do the next release for the application, right? But here, if we have AI powered red teaming, it is more of a, I would say, it can do everything together for you. The speed, the traditional speed, what we used to have was at least 2 weeks of pen testing, which we used to at least conduct for a specific product. But with AI powered, the same kind of pen testing what we're talking about here is being done in a day of two, compare 2 weeks to one day. That's the difference. And it could also improve your go to market, right? If you have a critical product which you have to go live immediately, and you can really use some of the AI powered red teaming. But is that enough? That's something which we should really ask. Do you have enough controls? Do you have enough validations in place? Do you have enough controls documented for this particular AI agents to actually do this kind of pen testing? What kind of access you are giving them? So I would say it's more of human led strategy plus AI driven execution at scale is something which we should look for. Don't give complete control for AI. Human should be there to lead the strategy, and then AI take it over at execution. That's something which we should really consider. But a very good question.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, Nithin, and thank you, Raghav, as well for that question. Okay, so with that, I'm going to end the poll to take your interest in enrolling in the program. And we know that most of you would be eager to know about the attending certificate. I will be launching another poll now to take your name. Please, 1 second. Right. Please share your full name in this poll. We don't need your email ID or anything else. Just your full name as to how you want it to display in the certificate. And we will be able to generate the certificate and share it with you within the next 48 working hours. Meanwhile, one more question to you. Um, Okay, so we have question from Skanda. He is a final year BCA cybersecurity student. He wants to build a career in cybersecurity and eventually reach a level like yours. So he wants to know in today's industry, what are some key skills or experiences that a student should focus on to enter the cybersecurity field and handle um, high impact cyber incidents.
Okay, a very interesting question. Thank you so much, Skanda. But let me be very direct here. Cybersecurity today, I would not call it just knowing about tools or knowing about certifications will not let you become something which we thought we could be 20 years ago. So it's about how you think under pressure and how you solve problems when you don't have a clear indication of how to handle it. So I would say you must build your skills in maybe it all depends upon where do you want to be, right? So it depends upon if you want to go deep into cybersecurity, then you should know about at least have a very high level understanding about networking, your operating systems, your basic cybersecurity hygiene, how to detect your detection thinking. I'm not talking about how do you detect an attack, but you should know from a normal perspective what would an attack really be. So don't just stop at theories. You know, come into come into seminars like this or webinars like this where people are talking about a lot of case studies where you get more knowledge on, and also go to platforms like try hack me, hack the box, create a home lab, simulate attacks, detect them, log analysis. What more, I can talk a full seminar on this question actually, because that's a big thing. And always be curious to learn. Ask questions. Don't hesitate yourself from asking questions. You should always ask, what did I miss? So what did I miss? Ask questions at times. If something breaks in production, how bad is the impact? Or if something breaks, you should really ask, what impact did this make? Does it make, like, again, going back to the same topic of business crisis? So that's what every cybersecurity person to think. Be curious, be learning, completely. Don't just chase tools, understand the concepts. There will be like 100 tools. You cannot be master of all the 100 tools. But if you know the concept of one tool, how it is made, and what the tool is actually doing, then you can do anything with the other 99 tools as well. So that's how you have to understand about it. So in a nutshell, yes, that's how it is. But like I said, be curious, ask questions, and learn. Continuous learning is something which we should have.
Perfect. Yes, thank you so much, Nithin, and thank you so much, Skanda, also for that question. We have one more question from Raghav. So, Raghav, I think in the interest of time, we will not be able to take up within the session, but let me take your question to the team. Maybe it's something that we can help you with post the webinar. We'll see if we can compile some materials for you. Okay, great. So with that, I am also ending the poll for the certificates. And yes, we're almost like, 20 minutes past our 1 hour time limit. So I would have to close the webinar. Apologies for, a couple of you whose questions we are unable to answer, but we will try to get back to you on email with the answers. Great. So we are wrapping up this session. If you have any more questions, please do feel free to write to us at webinars@simplylearn.net, or if you have any feedback to share, we'd love to hear from you and improve based on your suggestions. And Nithin, thank you so much for your guidance and sharing your knowledge. It's been this was a very different session for me as well, to learn from all these real incidents. So thank you so much for being here. Any final remarks to share, any advice for our learners?
Uh, yes, I have a very small thing to talk. Just maybe I'll just take one liner. Uh, Always we used to talk about bringing awareness, and with all this, what we spoke is not just about awareness. It's about how you execute it. So don't just learn, try to practice what you learn. Don't just read, try to do it in real time, how you can actually do it. So that's something which I want to, make sure you take it forward from these learnings. So the capability what you want to learn comes from practice, exposure, and learning from real scenarios. So, Ananya, I would like to see more sessions like this from Simplilearn, which could really bring a difference to the people who are looking forward to coming into cybersecurity. So, I must thank you for bringing up this session. Thank you so much, Ananya and the team.
Of course. And I think that's very well put. So with those wise words, we are wrapping up the session. Thank you everyone for spending your last 1 hour with us. We hope that you'll be able to apply the learnings from this session as well as what you get from our cybersecurity program to get ahead in your career. And I hope to see all of you in our next webinar as well on threat intelligence. Great. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.